Okay, so at this point you will have created an import of your sunset or dawn images, which we're calling the golden hour, and you should have created a collection, and inside that collection you're creating subsets so that you can really narrow down to some of your favorite images that you want to edit. So here we have one image I'm already selected on and I'm ready to edit, so I'm going to press the D key, which is my quick key for the develop module, and that'll bring it into Lightroom, into the develop module in Lightroom for me. So one of the first things that I do is I always work from the top down. The first thing I'm going to do is click on my crop tool, which is right here, and I'm going to click on my bubble angle, and I'm going to click on my horizon line and just drag across to tell Lightroom where my horizon line is, and if it's crooked it will fix it and straighten it out for me. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to practice my rule of thirds, and I'm going to look at where my sunset or my sun is here, and I'm going to just try to pop it over here to where the thirds line is right here. So I'm going to click and drag it over, and I can move my crop around so that I have my sun here on the thirds line. I'm not going to drag my crop all the way up so that the line is right there on the thirds of the water, because I don't want to lose all of my reeds that are down here. I'm just going to drag it down just a touch more so that I have some more reeds here. So I'm close to the line. It doesn't have to be exact. It's really just a guideline. So I'm pretty much practicing my rule of thirds right here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the white balance, and I'm going to click on daylight and tell Lightroom that this is what I'm looking for. So daylight hours, and it adjusted my temps and tints, and I'm going to drag my temp shade just a little bit warmer and my tint shade just a little bit warmer, and it's just going to pull in some more warmer colors in my image. Next, I'm going to go under to my tonal controls. I'm going to click auto again, and Lightroom's really going to drag my exposure down. Oops, zoomed in there. And I don't want to do that quite yet. I'm going to do this later on after we've done all of our other edits at the end with my graduated filter. So I'm going to bring my exposure back up a little bit, not quite all the way. I'm going to increase my contrast just a little bit. I'm going to bring some of the highlights. I don't want them back too much because I want to bring out the detail of the shadows of the clouds there. So that's why my shadows are pushed so high up. So we'll go right there for shadows, and maybe increase some of the blacks a little bit. Clarity, I'm going to pull up somewhere in between 30 and 40. I think looks good for this image. Basically, it just makes the image pop and gives a lot more dimension to your image. I'm going to increase the vibrance a little bit, and that's going to just bring out some more colors, and the saturation just a tiny bit, not too much, because otherwise it's going to start to look fake, and we're going to be playing with colors later on down here. Then under tone curve, I'm going to bring my highlights down a little bit. I'm not going to touch my lights. I'm going to bring my darks down. And these are going to be different for every image. I mean, you have to look at your image and really decide what it is that you want to do. And bring some of my shadows down as well. So now everything's getting a lot more richer, a lot more contrasty. Okay, and now there's two things here that I'm going to show you about changing your colors and really making the sunset-y part of this assignment look, more like a sunset and really dramatic. So here we have our HSL, color, and black and white adjustment sliders. I'm going to just focus on the S portion for saturation for our individual colors. So if we have blues and yellows and oranges in here, I can really push the saturation of those specific colors. So if I go to blue and push my saturation up, you don't want to oversaturate, because if we were to zoom in up here, you would see that it would just start to look all torn up and shredded, and that's no good. So we're going to bring some specific color saturations. And we're going to bring up some of the orange a little bit too. And you can see it's starting to look golden. We could even do anything. If there's any reds in there, we could push that. But we don't even necessarily have to hit it here, because this is where some crazy magic can happen. Under split toning, you can click under highlights. Anything that's got a highlighted color, it's like a lighter shade. you can increase the saturation of that, and then you have this hue slider, and you can decide what color it is that you want to apply here. So if you want more yellows or more golds in your sunset, you can be right there in the orangey color of your hue, and really going to make things look golden. I might go for a more purpley blue sunset, obviously not that saturated because that was a little crazy, and then same thing for shadows, just anything that's on the darker end of the spectrum. We can increase our saturation. And see, we're still in the reds for our hues, but maybe we want it to be on the cooler side, so we can go up to our blues and purples and really push that. And now we've got a pretty sick looking sunset going on here. And you can see without those effects, with those effects, okay? And all of this is adjustable. It's just really amazing what Lightroom lets you do. Okay, under detail, I like to increase my sharpening a little bit. My radius, I'll keep it 1, and my detail, I'll pop up to about 30 to 35. Under lens corrections, I always enable my lens corrections. It just helps to correct any little alterations your lens might make, and I believe I was using, my 24 to 70 millimeter tends to create a little bit of a roundness on the edges. So that helps to pop it back out. Lightroom is making up for those little things that your lens can do. I like to apply a vignette on my image, especially with sunset pictures. Just bring it down a little bit. It helps to keep your focal point more in the middle, so it's darkening out those edges for the viewer. And then I'm going to pop back up top, and this is going to be the last thing that we're going to do. I'm going to apply a filter to the top of my image. So this is a graduated filter. I'm going to click and drag down, and when I hold down the Shift key, it straightens out for the horizon line for me. So that's a nice little trick. Don't forget to press your Shift key when you use this. And now I have total control. It's going to adjust everything from up here on down. So if I hold my mouse over my little black dot, it's not showing any changes yet, but nope, nothing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag my exposure down just to darken that sky out, make it more intense up here. I am going to increase the shadows a little bit. I'm going to increase my clarity. I think I'm pretty saturated, so I'm not going to increase my saturation. I'll increase the sharpness just a little bit, and maybe a little bit more contrast, and you can see crazy difference there. And again, you can see before and after what I just did with that graduated filter. So that's a pretty cool adjustment. And I'm going to click close when I'm done. And the last and final step I want everyone to do when they're done with this, just click on your before and after so you can see, wow, this is what I started with, and oh my goodness, this is what I ended with. Crazy, right? Okay, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Have a good day.